What is up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Dense Pixels podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brad, joined by my co-host, Micah.
Hello.
And Carrie.
What's up?
Hope you guys all had a very lovely holiday season. I know that Christmas at my house was punctuated by my son getting COVID. Fortunately, mild symptoms. Fortunately, my wife and I, no symptoms. But we didn't get to go anywhere. But that was fine because I played so many video games over the last couple of weeks and we'll talk about those because, you know, that's what we do here. We talk about video games in this podcast that you can listen to weekly on podcast services or on YouTube by going to youtube.com/densepixels. We're just one show among many shows in the TNP Studios stable, so make sure you check out all those other shows as well. And again, don't forget, we do have premium content you can subscribe to for just $5 a month or $50 a year to get access to the premium slate of TNP shows by going to densepixels.com/premium. So now we got housekeeping out of the way. We're gonna mix it up a little bit this week. We're gonna talk about the news first because I wanted to make this a games focused show because I figured we played some games while we were, you know, away for 2 weeks. And chilling out with our families and trying our best to ignore our extended family over the holidays. So, you know, figure we had some of those things to roll with. So we're going to do the news first. The biggest news over the past couple weeks, undoubtedly, was the Insomniac hack that happened and then was released. Basically, hackers went in and tried.
This was a ransomware thing.
Yeah,
which means that some ding dong at Insomniac fell for a phishing thing and basically gave ransomware folks their credentials.
Actually, according to the hackers who talked about it, they said.
Oh, did they just get in?
Yeah, they said it was really easy to get in. Actually, so which is not great for your cybersecurity.
Exactly. It's stuff like this with ransomware, especially, you gotta have your shit locked down as a company that does this stuff. But yeah, 1.67 terabytes of data spanning 1.3 million files posted. This whole thing went up. So
yep, it's on the dark web. They tried to ransom it for about $2 million or 50 Bitcoin because of course these idiots don't operate in regular money. They always have to use Bitcoin. But there's a lot of stuff that came out in this hack. Basically, the full plot of the Wolverine game, including a pre-alpha, gameplay, videos of the game are out there. If you really care to see them, I would recommend not looking at pre-alpha footage of a game because pre-alpha footage is not intended to be seen and not going to look very good. But that's out there if you really give a shit. We have news about the studio's projected slate of games, including future Spider-Man games, Ratchet and Clank games, possibly transitioning Wolverine into an X-Men series, potentially, and possibly some online games based on the Marvel superhero stuff. Now, again, these are all just projected things at varying degrees of planning. So all this is completely, take it all with a grain of salt. And there are also some internal Sony documents that came out as a result as well. Obviously, Insomniac was disappointed that this happened. It's never a fun thing to have this kind of information that you expect to have under lock and key out there. Probably the most concerning was the fact that a lot of Insomniac employee personal data, including HR documents, were also part of this hack as well. And that's probably the most distressing part. Because again, like having your work product out there and your marketing plans and stuff like that, like that's, it's not the end of the world, but this could be, depending on who gets their hands on this stuff, potentially problematic for some of the folks that work for your company. Micah, have you tried to sneak peeks of this Wolverine stuff since this hack went out? Okay, good for you.
No, I don't do stuff like that on principle. Because that's fucked up, man. It is. It's just fucked up. You're not cool for doing it. The fact that you want like 2,000 Bitcoin or whatever doesn't make
Actually,
you fucking.
just 50 Bitcoin for $2 million.
That's how much a Bitcoin is
Yeah.
worth.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, you're not. This isn't. This is not cool. It's not right. I specifically don't seek out this information now that it's out there. But I tell you what. I mean, as far as the projected games slate, I mean, that's just like early marketing as far as I'm concerned. Like, what? More Spider-Man game? Dope.
Yeah.
Right.
X-Men?
Right. Dope. Awesome. But the fact that these people's personal information has been compromised is the real issue here. And, I hope nothing, happens to these people because of this information is just out there now. But no, this is screwed up, man. This is messed up and And look, Insomniac is like, hey, I mean, this is really distressing for us, but thank you for all your support and yeah, like we are excited to show you what we are working on. So yeah. I hope they'll bounce back. This is.
I don't think this is going to ultimately have much of an impact on Insomniac at large. It's like, okay, cool. A lot of info got put out there. I think ultimately it's probably more concerning for like the individuals at the company who like basically ended up doxxed. Had like their personal information put out there. But I feel like most people are not going to be paying that much attention. They're going to be looking at like the actual game related shit. But
I did find it funny. This not that obviously, but around it.
No.
Yeah. It led to some interesting discourse in games media.
It was really just OpenCritic that
really?
decided to like take a hard stance. That's the only one that I saw.
No, there were a couple more like kind of funny, wouldn't talk about the details of what was in the hack. Like they talked about the
fact that a hack had happened.
Yeah, the downside about it. There were a couple other places that did that, and then there were a couple of places that like news sites especially that were like, no, like we're going to report on what was in there.
That's
Like we're not
thing.
we're not going to send you a link to where you could get the stuff.
Right, exactly. I mean, here's the thing. So OpenCritic had posted a tweet and then they kind of quickly deleted it because they got kind of called out by other media people. But OpenCritic, which of course is like an aggregate site, but the OpenCritic Twitter account basically tweeted and then deleted this whole sort of deal about like how they're not going to post anything about it and how journalistic ethics according to the Society of Professional Journalists say like to not do anything in your line of work that would cause other people harm, and that covering this is causing the devs at Insomniac harm, this, that, and the other. And Gene Park, my buddy at the Post, had a really good counter argument, which was just like that guidance doesn't apply to product information.
Yeah.
Talking about a planned X-Men game is not information that endangers somebody's safety. Covering these leaks are not causing people actual harm.
Mm-hmm.
The leak itself is what caused people at Insomniac harm. Covering the details of the leak and how it happened and even what was included in that leak is not causing harm.
Mm-hmm.
As he mentioned, no proper media organization would ever cover the doxed info of the people in there. And of course, nobody was doing that. Yeah. But like covering leaked product info is ethical. Like that's fine. That's stuff that's out there and it's newsworthy. You can be sympathetic to devs who are feeling bad about, being leaked and being hacked and whatnot. But like, given the information ecosystem that we are in right now, it is merciless. It has no sympathy for anybody, especially not journalists. So, there was this weird back and forth about it that I, as someone who worked in media for a long time, I found particularly strange.
Yeah. I also found it interesting. Like it's funny because I saw both sides of things getting criticized. Like I saw people throw criticism at the journalist like the legit sites that did cover it, and they're like, how could you do this? And then I saw people getting upset at people that didn't cover it, saying, hey, like, you covered the Microsoft court document leak when it happened a couple months ago and talked about rules and that. How is this different? And where I saw people like, it's one thing like if files like get leaked out, like this is obviously a malicious attack on Insomniac, and that's where people were drawing the line. I guess I can maybe see that. To me, it's just kind of two sides of the same coin.
Yes, this was malicious and it was financially driven. But at the end of the day, the fact that this happened, like the fact that this happened is newsworthy. And ignoring it is not going to make anything better. It's not going to undo the fact that these files were put out there. And of course, no real legitimate news site was really linking to the files or anything like that. It was just most of the coverage was like, hey, Insomniac got hacked in this big ransomware attack, and this is how much money they demanded, and Insomniac refused to pay, and so now all of these files are out there, and here's sort of some of the big things that are in the files and whatnot. And that in and of itself, that's basic news journalism. Like, you can sit there and be like, that sucks for Insomniac. No one's saying it doesn't suck for Insomniac. But this whole like, oh, you're doing harm to Insomniac by covering this. No, you're not. That's not how it fucking works. The harm was already done. Covering the harm is not causing more harm. People got to understand how the news cycle works.
Basically, whatever the sites decide to do, whether they decide to cover it or not cover it, I don't really care. Like whatever you want to do, like it doesn't really matter. It's also just kind of silly to take a stand and be like, oh, we are not covering it, but also like the information's out there. Like you're not protecting anybody by not doing that. So
someone else is just gonna go to a different site.
So
look at whatever.
So here we are in a new year. Yet we have to cover the last story. That was one of the themes of 2023 is that people in the games industry losing their job. Let's see, what was the name of the company? TinyBuild wins the award for the biggest Grinch of the season as they shut down game publisher Versus Evil, who had published the Banner Saga and Pillars of Eternity games in recent years, literally days before Christmas, which fucking sucks, and it wasn't their choice.
It does.
Yeah, it was their
parent
company's choice. Again, like if you're just gonna like, you couldn't wait 2 fucking weeks or a week and a half or however long it was. Like you had to do that shit fucking the Friday before goddamn Christmas. Are you fucking serious? That's insane to me.
This comes a couple weeks after TinyBuild had revealed lower than expected revenue and announced sort of cost cutting measures were coming, including layoffs, and pointed to the Versus Evil label as an underperformer, with 3 out of 4 games from the brand delayed from 2023 into 2024. Also revealed a $3.5 million settlement between TinyBuild and the Versus Evil founder, Steve Escalante, Lance James, and Stallproof LLC. They had alleged that TinyBuild obligated and failed to make timely capital contributions to Versus Evil during the previous 2 fiscal years.
So because the parent company did not live up to their end of the financial agreement and had to pay out a lawsuit settlement as a result, you people at this publishing company did not make your earnings for this year, and so we have to fire you. Is some classic fucking corporate nonsense.
This particular article in the show notes estimates that about 9,000 people lost their jobs amid cutbacks across the tech industry this year. And that's just in tech. Yep. A lot of other industries went through the same sort of bullshit this year. It just doesn't get the same kind of news coverage because they don't make games.
Well, not on this podcast, at least. I can't speak for other podcasts.
I'm sure Bloomberg said something about it.
I'm sure. Again, it's unfortunate to say, I think that this trend is going to continue happening throughout 2024 as well, because interest rates have still not fallen off at all. They're holding, but they're not going
No,
down.
I mean, no one wants to just come out and say it, but like we're in a recession right now. Like that is how it is.
Yep.
You just look at all the metrics, and we are in a recession. People are losing their jobs. It is difficult to find jobs right now. So,
like I said, I'd like to hope this trend will stop this year, but I think we're still in for some pain. Not we.
I am
but,
not
other
especially
folks.
optimistic about it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, this is not. This isn't going to stop because people are buying games. People want to make games, and they'll do whatever they can to get their foot in the door. You know, like that's one of the more insidious things about this is that, like, very few people get into gaming or game development because they just kind of fall into it. You know what I mean? Like this is a dream job for people. And it's one of those things that you got to kind of really put your sweat equity in. And when you do make something, it's like these people are artists, man. Like I don't want to, you know, it's like being a struggling actor, and then hey, you made something, and now it's just like, hey, you're on a TV show, and then it's just like, oh, your character dies, we don't need you anymore, and it's like, oh, okay, and not even that, because like there's a guarantee of like a certain amount of like contracts are signed, and now this is like, nah, we just don't need you. You're too expensive.
Yeah.
But
the notable difference being actors are unionized in the games industry.
Right,
It's not
right.
not widely unionized. So. Yeah. So like I said, I hope we can slow these stories, but not counting on it, unfortunately.
not optimistic.
Last bit of news story, your reminder that pressuring companies does indeed work sometimes. We talked a few weeks back about how, because of a licensing agreement, Sony was just going to be removing Warner Discovery content from PlayStation libraries that was purchased. Got into a fun back and forth discussion between Mike and myself about the legitimacy of pirating media in this day and age of digital rights and distribution.
Do it!
And nonsense.
Fucking do it.
Carry on my thing, side of the equation.
Here's the thing. If like this goes for games too, because as it is right now, the vast majority of video games ever made are not playable on contemporary consoles. And most companies have no interest in dumping ROMs to make them playable. I mean, as it is right now, you think of physical media, old school physical carts and discs and whatnot. Eventually these wear out and they stop working. In a lot of ways, emulation, piracy though it may be, is also preserving the history of video games in a way that the major companies seem to have no interest in doing themselves. And yeah, as far as Sony and Discovery go, they can go fuck themselves. This whole shit, as far as like, look, if I pay money for something, and it's like I expect to own that thing. This really goes to show like the value of physical media in today's day and age. That they would just be able to be like, oh, well, the licensing up. So even if you paid us 10, 20, 30 bucks for these shows or these movies, you can go fuck yourselves because you never actually owned these things. And even though you thought you did, we're just going to yank them out of your library now.
Well, good news.
So yeah.
Good news. For at least the next 30 months, because of a restructured deal Sony struck, this content will not be removed from PlayStation owners' library. So congratulations. If you have the entire Cake Boss series on your PlayStation 5, fear not. You will be able to watch it in perpetuity for at least the next 30 months. So yeah. So that is the news around there. We're going to give you some ads, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about video games for the rest of the show. And, of course, your questions later. All right, so we are back and been playing some games. I am very excited to hear about the games that you guys have been playing, but I will start off with my newest obsession, because apparently now... this is one of the things I hate about myself, right? Like I'm someone who's very aware of my flaws, right? I hate the fact that I'm pretty sure I have ADHD because it makes it difficult to play video games sometimes. Like, you keep bouncing between a lot of different games. It's hard to focus on one game. It's also hard to play certain games. Like, like certain games are just difficult to play. I need the flow of dopamine to come my way. It's probably one of the reasons I like games like Diablo, stuff like that so much. But one of my other issues is when I tend to find when I turn over a rock and find a new genre of game, I tend to fucking go like whole hog into things, right? And so like now I'm playing a lot of like city building / like management games and stuff like that. Like, that's kind of my jam. And I've been playing Against the Storm, which was a highly acclaimed game that's been in early access for the last couple of years and finally just went 1.0 in December. And Against the Storm does something that I've championed on this show, and that is there are very few genre of games out there that aren't at least enhanced positively by saying, what if you do this, but a roguelike? Because that's what Against the Storm is. Against the Storm is a city building roguelike game. It takes place in a dark fantasy world. Essentially what happens is there's this like central city, and the lands surrounding the city have been assuaged by a force called the Blightrot, right? And you're a viceroy, an employee of the queen, and your job is to go out and resettle the land, to try and get to these magical seals, which if you get enough of these seals repaired, then it'll push back the Blightrot. But you can only go so far, because after a set number of in-game years, like harvesting years, the Blightrot will completely re-envelop the land, and you basically start from square one. But as you reforge these seals, it extends the period of time that will happen, which will let you push deeper and deeper into the Outlands. And what you're doing in these games is you're literally doing a city builder in a 45 to 1 hour span, essentially, starting from nothing, and building a small settlement to try to complete specific goals to gain influence with the queen. And once you've established that the city is independent, you can push kind of further into the woods with another game. And that's kind of the flow of how it works. From a gameplay perspective, it's very much like other city builders, where you have your basic buildings, and you build those so that you can produce resources for more advanced production that you can use to make like the luxury stuff, which is really good and very valuable, that you can sell to traders and stuff like that. Where this game kind of throws a mix into that, though, is that the buildings that you get every game are randomized. Basically, you have this influence track, and you're trying to raise your reputation as much as you can. And at certain marks on the reputation track, you'll be offered the blueprint for a new building. And you're given a choice of 3, and you pick one. And each building can produce specific types of goods and things of that nature. So you might start working towards a strategy that you want to work up to producing this specific luxury good, and you have your base goods in place so that you can roll up the production chain to that. But you might never get a building that actually lets you produce that good. And so you're forced to adjust your strategy on the fly. And there are ways to mitigate that. Like, there are traders that come through if you build a trading post, and they can sell you the good that you need if you can't get it. Sometimes they don't have it, though. Like, you have to, these are things you kind of have to balance. And then each game you're also given objectives that the queen wants you to do. And that's your main source of influence. And you want to complete as many of those objectives as you can, because they typically give you nice rewards. And again, they're giving you that reputation that you need to win each game, essentially. The adversarial part, though, is the storm, is the titular storm, because as you're going through this region, it's always raining, and the game kind of goes through 3 cycles of like a drizzle, a harvesting period, and then the fucking storm. And the storm is when things get really bad, because your fantasy race of woodland creatures hate being in the fucking storm, and it makes them angry, and it lowers their resolve. And if their resolve goes negative, then they'll start leaving the settlement, which is bad. There's also it takes place inside these glades, and part of the progression through the game is you want to clear paths to access new glades, but some of those glades have dangerous events which can fuck up your settlement in other ways if you don't resolve them. It's really fucking fun to play this game. It took me a while to get into it. I had played this in early access, and I had played it in demo version as well, and I bounced off of it both times because the tutorial is very plotting because the game has a lot of systems that it has to teach you. So I kind of bounced off hard. If you push past the tutorial and actually start to get into the game proper and let the game show you what it does, it's very fun. I've put a ton of time into this in the past game, and I've also barely moved the meta progression in 20 hours. Like, I think there's like something like 8 different types of seals to get to kind of complete the game per se. And I've only done one of them. Like, I'm working my way towards the second seal, and I'm like 20 hours into the game. So like, there's a lot of gameplay here. And what it does really well is that it takes the problem that city builders have. Whereas with city builders, the mid to late game is where, like, the late mid game, and then the late game is where things kind of get boring because you're just kind of keeping the plate spinning so much. You're not really like introducing new things. And it also kind of upsets the other problem that city builders have, where once you figure out kind of the ideal building production pathway, you can kind of repeat that over and over in future settlements, and it kind of takes some of the mystery out of the game by forcing you to constantly do the beginning of the city game all the time, and by also throwing random different buildings and forcing you to pursue different strategy paths. Keeps the gameplay feeling really fresh. So if you have, if you like city builders, or if you have a passing interest in these types of games, I would really check out Against the Storm. It's very, very good. I think it is I know it's on PC, and I think it's on Switch too, if I'm not mistaken. But I've really had a good time with this, and I will be playing this for a good long while. I could see, for sure.
Nice.
Very cool.
Carrie, I am super excited to hear what you think about Persona 5 Tactica, because I was excited to check out this game, and then reviews kind of chastened me a little bit. So I'm curious to see what you have to say.
Well, so I get this as a Christmas gift. I haven't played a ton of it yet. I'm maybe about 5 hours in, but I like it a lot. It's kind of Persona XCOM, in so much that, like, it is a tactical RPG, grid-based, turn-based, with a cover mechanic. But unlike XCOM, there's no like percentage to hit or not. It's just like, you hit regardless, but the amount of damage that the enemy takes varies based on like where you are on the map versus them, whether they have half or full cover, that sort of thing. It's fun. I think I'm at like right before the first sort of boss map right now, but like, it's something that's very easy to play in spurts. It's, every sort of like map or like, fight basically doesn't take very long. It's a good blend of things that people really like about Persona 5. So like the characters and the music and the story, it's all there. And then, if you are someone like me who really likes turn-based tactics, this is a game for you. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not necessarily like blown away by it. But like, it's fun. It's light. It's not too terribly difficult. It's pretty well balanced as far as, enemy AI and that sort of thing. The big thing is that you only get 3 party members sort of on the board at a time. And so, you kind of have to strategize who you're going to take into battle with you. You don't have to take Joker every single time. It can be 3 other members of the Phantom Thieves too. It's interesting. You still get the sort of like one more mechanic, like the extra turn. Like if you crit, you get to sort of move and attack again after that. And again, sort of true Shin Megami Tensei fashion. But the other thing is, like, after you have downed an enemy, you can move your trio of characters into this like triangle formation to like surround an enemy, and that triggers what's called the triple threat attack, which is it's the all-out attack, basically. And here's the thing: as long as there's one enemy unit that's downed, anything else that's caught within the triple threat zone gets caught in that attack as well. You don't need everybody to be downed within the triangle. It just has to be one unit. So figuring out sort of like how to strategize with that deal, and because that wipes enemy units out very quickly, of course. It's good. I like the little change in art style. It's sort of along the lines of like the Persona Q games. They said that they had gone with this sort of more rounded art style, because if they had gone, like, I think they originally wanted to keep the original Persona 5 style, and they put those sprites on the field and they were like, everybody looks like stick figures. This is weird. So they had to like sort of round everybody out and make them a little cuter in the process. But yeah, it's fun. I'm not saying it's like a 10 out of 10 experience. It's like, for me, it's like an 8 out of 10 experience, but I'm having a really good time with it. The soundtrack rips. It's very easy to get into. There's a lot of different difficulty levels. If you like Persona but are maybe sort of quibbly about tactics style games, I would still say give it a shot. It's also on Game Pass. So if you have Game Pass for either PC or Xbox, you just have it. So definitely something worth checking out on Game Pass if you happen to have that. Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. I've quite enjoyed it as a birthday/Christmas gift, and I'm looking forward to like really seeing it through to completion. So for the record, I got it on Switch. It runs great on Switch, and I think it's a really good game to play on Switch, because particularly it's like I've been playing it exclusively in handheld mode on Switch so far, and it's a real easy game to just get cozy with. So yeah, I think it's a lot of fun, worth playing for sure.
While we are on the Persona topic, a couple weeks ago, when you weren't here, Carrie, I talked to Micah about the fact that I had started Persona 4 Golden, and I had gotten about 10 hours in, and I beat the first boss, and that's kind of where I'm at in the story. And it's just not grabbing me the way that Persona 5 did.
Yeah.
And why should I persist, if I should even persist, in Persona 4?
Persona 4 of the modern Personas, and to that, I mean, like 3, 4, and 5. Persona 1 and 2 are certainly worth playing. They're very different games. Persona 4 ranks dead last for me between like after 3 and 5. What you're saying is I should maybe look at this 3 remake that's coming out. You should definitely get the 3 remake when that comes out. Yeah, I mean, 4 Golden, I didn't finish it until the like PC port a couple years ago, and I really enjoyed it. But I think for me, it was at that point in time, like I had some space from Persona 5, and I didn't just roll straight into another Persona game, which is what I had done the first time I tried playing Persona 4, because in like the summer of 2008, maybe, I played through all of Persona 3, and I beat Persona 3, and I just started 4 right then and there, and I burnt myself out on it really quick because I didn't like the cast as much as I liked the cast of characters.
I also don't care for the cast. That was my biggest sticking point, is that it's like the same you had like the same
thing about the
type
cast,
of characters.
Yeah. The thing about the cast of Persona 4 is you don't get the most interesting characters until like a little bit into the story. They're not around. My favorite characters in Persona 4 are like Kanji is up there. And I think he's like maybe the third or fourth dungeon. Yeah, it's who's the other one I really liked? Naoto. Naoto's great. Naoto's extremely gender. I like Naoto a lot.
I told Micah, it's like, it's weird, like they have like but like Yosuke and Chie are both like combined, they're like
Yosuke
Ryuji,
and
but they're not as
Chie,
good.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care for any of the characters who you sort of have up front, outside of maybe Teddy. I like Teddy a lot,
See, I
and
can't.
Teddy has a very
Teddy
gets really interesting about like halfway through the main story. He's a little annoying up front, but he gets really interesting. But yeah, like Yosuke sucks. Chie I think is annoying, and Yukiko is just really stuck up in a lot of ways. That I don't find your sort of initial party members super appealing.
Yeah.
That being said, Persona 4, especially Persona 4 Golden, is like it's good. It's worth playing. I don't think it really picks up steam until probably the third or fourth dungeon, and then like a couple of the later ones get like really interesting.
Well, the other problem I told Micah that I had is that it's funny that like all the I like obviously not being a fan of the series, I didn't realize like how many quality of life changes were made between 4 and 5, dude. And like not having those is really annoying.
It can be tough to go back.
Yeah.
It's like, because I didn't play through Persona 4 Golden in full until after I had played 5 and 5 Royal, and so to go back to it, I was just like, ugh. Like,
so maybe I wait for the inevitable 5ification of Persona 4 Golden. That'll probably come
I mean, if
at some point,
if you're finding it difficult to get through what is ostensibly like a 15-year-old PlayStation 2 JRPG at this point, give yourself a little break from Persona, pick up 3 Reload when Reload comes out, literally a month from when we are recording this. See if you like that, and then maybe after having played like an HD remaster of 3, which even 4 really improved in terms of some quality of life stuff, in the initial release.
Yeah, but the problem is this version of 3 is probably going to have all the quality of life that 5 has.
Oh, that's true. So, yeah, I mean, even then, but yeah, I feel like Persona 4, by and large, is maybe easier to sort of wiggle your way into than after playing a version of 3, rather than going from 5 back into one of those two. But who knows? Who knows? I'm looking forward to playing 3 Reload. I might as well take a day off work because it's all I'm going to be doing that day. Yeah, it's good. I know for a lot of people, 4 remains their favorite Persona game, and it's totally valid. But for me, it's just sort of it's my bottom of the barrel Persona entry.
What they
really need to do is like HD remasters of 1 and 2 so that people will actually play those games.
maybe I mean the series certainly is popular enough right now. So one thing that I know that Micah will never find lacking is anything in the Like a Dragon / Yakuza series, because Micah's so hardcore that he has been playing one of these games, and he's going to play another one of these games this month. Like, you're going to hear Micah talking about Like a Dragon incessantly these first several weeks of 2024.
So, back in the day, I was really into Shenmue, and Shenmue left with a massive cliffhanger /plot hole, right? Like, the whole point was to get Lon D, because Lon D killed your father, and you never got to do it. And that was and it came out at a time. Well, when did that come out? And somewhere in the late 90s, early 2000s?
Early aughts, I think, is when they released it.
Yeah, I was in college, and I didn't have any friends in college, so my friends was Asian cinema, right? Like, that was my friend, Asian cinema. And I would watch a bunch of Asian cinema dramas and action movies and stuff like that. And here comes Shenmue, and I was like, oh wow, this is what I want, right? And then I never got the satisfaction. And then I picked up a game called Yakuza, and it had some of the worst English dub that I've ever heard in a game at that time. The PS2 version of Yakuza, its English dub was god-awful, which is probably why, for the vast majority of these games, they did not have an English dub until Like a Dragon 7 came out. I say all that to say that I love this this game and this entire series. It's a soap opera full of big burly gangsters talking about their feelings and doing wacky shit. It's the perfect balance of seriousness and kitsch. It's what people think of when they think of Japan, right? Like super serious, stern men, but like at the same time, it's like wacky anime stuff, right? I absolutely love it.
The dichotomy of like the seriousness of the story and then also the fact that Baka Mitai like exists.
right. So I played Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name. It is it's basically Like a Dragon 6.5 into 7, right? It takes place after the Song of Life, and before and concurrent with uh, Like a Dragon, which is the RPG. And basically in Like a Dragon 6, things happen, and it's too much to get into, but things happen, and our hero, our protagonist, who we've been with for what, like 20 years, something like that, and we've seen all facets of his life from when he was around 19 or 20 in Yakuza 0 to what he is now, which is probably in his like late 40s, early 50s, right? Like we have seen this guy's life. And he had to fake his own death in order to protect his adopted daughter and his surrogate nieces and nephews in an orphanage, right? There's a lot of shit that happens in those prior 6 games. But nonetheless, he has to fake his death, and he's blackmailed into working for this organization. This organization is like, you need to come do these things for us. You need to do what we tell you to do, and basically, it leads up into the events of Like a Dragon 7, where he is featured. It's like, oh shit, Kiryu's in fucking Like a Dragon, and it's fun. It's not an RPG. It's one of the beat 'em up Yakuza games. He has 2 different fighting styles. One is your standard Yakuza, like I'm gonna beat the shit out of you fighting style. The other one is called Secret Agent, and Kiryu is given a bunch of different like little gadgets and stuff. Like he's got like a Spider-Man type thing that shoots out of his watch, where he can kind of tie people up, and he's got rocket shoes, and like he's like James Bond, right? He's got a cigarette that is a bomb, right? Like he's like James Bond, and it's really fun, man. I enjoy these. Look, I don't know if people like these games. I mean, they must like them. Like they're the 8th version is about to come out, so they must like them. But I don't know what I need to do to get people into these games, because this is like we make fun of Metal Gear and Kojima games for kind of being very long-winded. At the same time, like I finished this game. This game, at the point of no return, literally says, hey, this is the point of no return. Make sure you do everything you need to do, and make sure you have enough time to get through all of this. Because because at the point of no return, it takes about 2.5 hours before you can just like stop. Right?
I'm a big fan of when games give you the heads up that some bullshit's about to happen.
Yeah, man.
Final Fantasy 14 actually does this all the time. They're just like, after you do this, a lot of cutscenes are going to play, and you're going to have to participate in these cutscenes. Make sure that like you're not in duty roulette. Make sure that you're not doing anything else. Make sure you got the time to like chew on this story real quick.
You know, it's about time games started respecting our lives outside of.
I was just about to say, like it's overdue. I think for times to like understand that the people playing them like have lives, and like it's nice to see game developers like really respect the people playing their games in such a fashion.
Yeah, man, because I got to that point at night, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm able to play sometime during the day, but most of the time at night. But I can't stay up all night. So I'm very happy that they were like, hey, you make sure you got some time. So I was like, all right, I'll wait till the weekend, and then I can finish this. And yeah, man, it's super fun. Look, I'm here for the story, and I'm here for these characters, and it's this game is fun. It's a side story, so it's only about 25 hours, which is perfect for me
Mhm.
because these games are very long. They're not long in terms of like, we were just talking about Persona 5. That's a 100-hour RPG, right? Like these games are generally around 50 to 60 hours, but it's 50 to 60 hours where like 50% of it is just watching and reading. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it feels long. Like these games are not paced, exactly the way I would like them to be. But I'm so engrossed in the characters, and I love it. I'm having a really good time. And when you beat the game, you get to play a demo of Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth, the eighth game in the series, which I am very, very, very much looking forward to.
Mhm.
And w- you know, Kiryu's got cancer, guys. Like this fucking unbeatable, like stoic, like he's like the Terminator, right? Like he's the badass with a heart of gold, right? And nothing can take him down, right? But he's got cancer, right? Like, oh shit. Like that really humanizes this character. So I'm super excited for it. Ichiban is a wonderful character. I played the demo, and it's turn-based RPG mechanics, right?
Mhm.
And they have a couple of different things that I'll get to when I get the hands on the full game. But when you play as Kiryu, one of the staples of Kiryu is that he could switch styles, right? He could switch fighting styles, right? Like one style is very evasive, one style is very hard hitting, one style is like grapple based. He could do that, but he can also go into what they call heat mode, which is basically super powered, right? And when you go into heat mode in the other games, you basically are your moves hit harder, you do more damage, right? In the demo, you can go into that state, but when you go into that state, it stops being a turn-based RPG and starts being an old school Yakuza game. So you can just run around and beat the shit out of people. You don't have to wait for anybody's turn or anything like that. Your turn isn't over until your special is like done. Uh, it's just dope, yo. Like Kiryu can just break the mechanics of the game because he's such a badass. So yeah, look, if you're already a fan, you already know all this. If you're not a fan, please go out and play Yakuza Zero, and you will. That's the beginning of everything,
Mhm.
and you will be a fan.
So
And
so after when I eventually get done with Octopath, and I'm getting there, I plan on playing Yakuza 7. Now, this is gonna be around the time Infinite Wealth comes out. Do you think that I should just play Infinite Wealth, or do you think that it's still worth playing Yakuza 7 to have the storyline, at least for Ichiban, because obviously he's the main protagonist in that game going forward?
no, I don't think so. I think you can just kind of jump into Infinite Wealth. All
Mm-hmm.
you need to know about Ichiban is that he is just like Kiryu, except like I don't know what the opposite of stoicism is, but the opposite of stoicism is Ichiban,
He
right?
run,
Like he's
just from an outsider's perspective. I know I turned you on to the Jade Ward series. Ichiban, from an outsider perspective, strikes me as similar to like Hilo in those novels.
yes,
Who's
kind of.
very brash when he starts, and he'll probably mature as time goes along.
Yeah, he's such a good like every character is just great, man. I think you could probably start with Infinite Wealth because it takes place in a brand new location, and Ichiban's story is it's told, and it's told in to a point where it's like I don't know if there's going to be another one of these games.
Mhm.
So you could probably just jump into Infinite Wealth. If anything, you know, Kiryu being there might be like, whoa, like what? It, Kiryu's got a lot of baggage. So
I watched a primer for the Kiryu saga, and I know about Kiryu's storyline basically. So
okay,
no worries there.
then
I'm well
then I
aware of
think
his deal.
you're
So
then I think you're ready for Infinite Wealth. I cannot tell you how much, and that and Tekken 8 come out on the same day, and I can't believe it. Like that's gonna
it's
be
like
that's gonna be a day off day for me.
like I said,
I'm taking
it's
off of
cool
work.
to me, and we were just talking about Persona. Like it's cool to me these series that had these like were entrenched in Japan for such a long time that are now finally like making their way and are here like in America. Like Persona is here at this point. Yakuza is here at this point. They're not like niche franchises anymore. I just think that's neat. I think it's neat to see that happen. So, Dragon Quest kind of the same way. It was very a mainstay in Japan for a long time before it finally broke through, and even that's not on the same level as these. I don't think so.
I saw a video of, I guess it's a meme. It was a video on Facebook of Yakuza 7, like a dragon, and George Takei's character shoots the main character, right? And it's it's a meme about like not skipping cutscenes. Like, don't skip cutscenes, especially in this series, right? Because there's a lot of them, and you'll be thrown in, and you won't know what the fuck happened. And it's a very pivotal point in the first act where George Takei's character shoots our main character, who is his subordinate. And he loves the George Takei character. And he's like, "Why the fuck you shoot me, boss?" And he shoot him, and then you skip the cutscene, and then you're riding a go kart. Like, it's just wild. Like, it's not that extreme. It's not that extreme, but yeah, don't skip cutscenes in Like a Dragon. Like, you will be like, "What the fuck just happened?" So yeah, look, I'm gonna sing the praises of of every one of these games. I love them.
Good place for another break. We'll come back and talk about some more games and then the post office. So, I stumbled upon a game that just came out in early access recently, and it's called Stellaris Nexus. Now, many of you out there might be familiar with Stellaris. Stellaris is, of course, the space themed grand strategy game from Paradox. Stellaris Nexus is published by Paradox's publishing label, not developed by them. And it's really only similar to Stellaris in the themes and like the different races and stuff like that are in the game. But what Stellaris Nexus is it is really a board game implementation of Stellaris. Okay, where you take control of one of the species in the game, and you have your own little star system carved out at the beginning, and everyone else does too. And you're playing on a game map with a central planet. That is kind of the thing that everyone's fighting over, and you're playing to a victory point score. And the way the gameplay works is every turn, you're going to draw a number of cards that are different actions that you can do. And in order to do actions, you have to have basically a stockpile of resources, and that's limited, and you generate a certain number each turn. And you can use those resources to perform these actions. And these are like, if you're a board gamer and you played 4X board games, like, it's pretty standard fare stuff. Like, you can construct new buildings on your planets. You can use diplomacy to bring other planets into your empire, or to or to coordinate with other species. You can build new ships. You can engage in espionage and things of that nature. And with the goal of you're trying to expand your system, you want to conquer the middle planet, because the middle planet gets you a ton of points if you hold on to it. Over a course of a number of rounds, and you're also trying to complete objectives that will be evolving and changing as the game goes along. Because I think it's 7 or 8 turns, there's a politics phase in the game where all the species use their political influence to vote on agendas that will impact the game world, and that's where the different scoring conditions are decided, because they're actually voted on by the players. And there's also some other conditions that are some bonuses that will apply for the next cycle until the next like politics phase happens. The reason I'm really enjoying this game is because it is basically a a board game implementation of a board game that I am really keen to want to play, and that's Twilight Imperium, which is a big, grand, epic space 4X board game that literally requires you to get 4 or 5 of your best friends and strap them in for 10 hours to play through this very awesome experience of a game, which is really hard to do. Very difficult to get that many people together for that amount of time to engage with this one sole thing. The thing that Stellaris Nexus does that makes it a lot more palatable is the fact that all the turns happen simultaneously. So basically, like, you're taking your actions for your turn, so is everybody else at the same time, and then the results basically execute themselves. So like, there's basically you have to kind of predict what your opponents are going to do as well, in order to not get hosed, hopefully, at the end of the day. This just came out in early access. They're going to be adding a lot more stuff to the game as we go along. The only thing that I've been disappointed by is the online play is a little iffy. It is not, it's host side multiplayer. So like, if the host quits out, there's no migration. So like, that just kind of ends the game for everybody, which is a bit of a bummer. But since the games only take like 45 minutes to an hour to play, it's not that big of a deal. And hopefully that they'll figure that out as they go through the early access phase. But if you are a 4X board gamer, and are looking for a board game that kind of scratches that itch, give Stellaris Nexus a look. I've been pleasantly surprised, with it so far.
I played Sea of Stars. Now, I think I talked about this the last time I was on. But I just want to reiterate how fucking good this game is. I played it on my Switch while I was stuck at my parents' house for 2.5 weeks with no other gaming system. And I thought it was very good. I think a lot of people were like, oh, it's Chrono Trigger. And it's not Chrono Trigger. It's what happens if you smash up Paper Mario and Golden Sun. It's real good. I mean, I really can't say enough good things about it. It's a solid story. The battle system's great. The music's incredible. The thing about the music that's really getting lost is everyone's like, oh, Yasunori Mitsuda did the music. He did 10 tracks on, I think, a total of like 70 tracks. Yeah, well, Eric Brown's not getting enough credit.
They gotta have something to put on the back of the box. The non-existent box.
You know, I get it. Look, I mean, I think here's the thing: is I think it says a lot about how good Eric Brown is as a composer that I can listen to the whole soundtrack and not be able to pick out which ones Mitsuda did. Whole thing's really good. Yeah, I mean, Sea of Stars is really the other most recent game I've really played a lot of. Mm-hmm. That and like maybe Pokemon Puzzle League on Switch Online N64. It's Tetris Attack, except it's Pokemon themed. That game's good too. Fun fact about that game was made specifically for America. It's based on the like English dub of the anime. And accordingly, all of the music in it is like MIDI-fied versions of like the Pikachu's jukebox tracks from the anime, or like the stuff off of To Be a Master. There's also a couple MIDI versions of like stuff from the Pokemon the first movie American soundtrack. It's an interesting soundtrack. I like the game a lot. It's fun. Again, it's fucking Tetris Attack. If you've played Tetris Attack, you've played Pokemon Puzzle League and Puzzle Challenge. I'm looking forward to playing a lot more games this year, for sure. I had a lot of reasons going on last year as to why I wasn't really playing a whole lot of games. And this has been a very busy holiday season for me between being in Maryland for 2 weeks, doing multiple shows with the Baltimore Gamer Symphony Orchestra, recording an entire Shin Megami Tensei EP and releasing that last week, and the holidays of my birthday, my partner's birthday. So Sea of Stars is good. You should play it. And then if you like Sea of Stars, play Golden Sun.
Yeah. You know what? I didn't buy Sea of Stars, but I did buy a game that people said should have gotten the level of praise that Sea of Stars got, and that was Chained Echoes. So I'll let you know about that when I eventually get around to it.
I've heard a lot of really good things about Chained Echoes from a lot of my peers in the VGM community. I've heard really nothing but good things about it. So I do kind of want to check that out too.
The last game that I'll talk about here before we get in the post office, I haven't played a lot of this yet, so it's very baseline. I did finally get Darkest Dungeon 2. I liked the first game a lot. So the original Darkest Dungeon is this very like eldritch horror themed dungeon crawl game where you're basically hiring these mercenaries to go into this mansion and fight these cosmic horrors. And the interesting mechanic of the game is that it's really fucking hard, but you can also be assaulted psychologically in the game, where your characters can actually develop like conditions and stuff like that make them less effective in fights. But I really liked the first one. It was a fun punishing game. Not for everybody, obviously, but it was a good time. Darkest Dungeon 2 is the structure of the game is very similar, where you have your party of 4 and you're fighting against enemies in that like line battle. And the thing that's cool about it is that it's like a 2D tactical game, because the positioning of your characters on the battlefield actually determine like the abilities that they have access to, because they can only use certain abilities in certain positions and only use them against enemies that are in certain positions as well. So you have to consider that when you're making your party. The big difference with the game is that this is a straight roguelike now, where everything is run based, and kind of the goal of the game is you are riding on your carriage through these affected towns, trying to get to this mountain where you fight this like major cosmic horror that you're trying to eradicate from the land. That's the difference, though, is that, like I said, they went from this like dungeon crawl, like build up this hamlet sort of thing, to a more roguelike with meta progression, and and you get a randomized set of characters that you can use for every run, and you'll get randomized items and stuff like that. So it's very different than the original Darkest Dungeon. I don't know if I like it better or worse yet. I haven't played enough. I've only done a couple of runs so far. It's just as punishing as the first game was. You should expect to get your teeth kicked in early and often in this game, but again, that's kind of part of the charm, is like kind of barely eking through a fight is like it makes you feel really good in this game, because it's easy to get trashed, but just kind of like persevering and hanging on. Also, the best moments are like when your character is on the verge of a psychotic break, but they have like a low percentage chance to like actually persevere and gain a positive trait that will help them in the rest of the fight and stuff like that. So more to come on this. I'll have more to say once I get to play it more. It's just competing for time with Against the Storm and Octopath Traveler, which are the other two games that I've been playing probably the most of, I would say, lately.
Nice.
So that will take us to the Dense Pixels post office, where you can join our Discord by going to densepixels.com/fans and asking us questions that we will answer on the show. And we will start with Courtney, who says, I find your enthusiasm carries, more specifically, for turn-based RPGs infectious, but I never got into the genre, and despite being a big fan of anime, I find most of those games too weeby to keep me interested. With that in mind, is there a turn-based RPG on PS4 and or Switch that you would recommend? As you may be able to guess, I've never played any of the Final Fantasy games. Carrie, I'm gonna get in before you and say probably the best recommendation I can give you on Switch right now is the Super Mario RPG remake, if you're looking for a good introductory turn-based role-playing game. Yeah.
I haven't played the SMRPG remake yet. I want to. It's on the to-do list. I am inclined to agree with that. I also think like if you're interested in Final Fantasy, but you think maybe some of the modern ones are maybe a little too weeby, the Pixel remasters are great. Mm-hmm. Play 4 and 6 probably first, and then maybe suffer through 1, 2, and 3. 5 is good. 5 is great. It's very different. I think 4 is probably, like, in terms of length, in terms of the amount of characters in the cast, in terms of story, it's probably the easiest to sort of parse of the sort of classic turn-based Final Fantasies. Also, again, as I literally just said, Sea of Stars is great. I don't think Sea of Stars is too terribly weeby. It's a good turn-based system. And it's a fun turn-based system because you can sort of time your attacks to get extra damage or land an extra attack, stuff like that. PS4 has plenty of JRPGs, but Switch, I think, You've got Super Mario RPG, you've got the Pixel remasters, you got Sea of Stars, and there's a lot of stuff on Switch Online too. I mean, you could go back. I think there's like the old Breath of Fires you could go back and play on like SNES Online and that sort of thing. There's a lot available. But as far as like baby's first JRPG, probably Sea of Stars or the Super Mario RPG remake if you're looking for something that's not like too weeby.
Yeah,
but there's nothing wrong with weeby.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with weeby. I don't know of any that aren't weeby. Maybe like maybe like Octopath or
Octopath is
I mean,
pretty
you have to wonder like what is the qualification for weeby, right? Like, is it like those super anime like slice of life kind of stuff that like the Persona games tend to have?
That's why I recommend it
for a lot of people is really weeby. And in that case, if that's the sort of thing that turns you off, but maybe like a mainline Shin Megami Tensei game would be sort of more your speed. Maybe the Nocturne HD remaster would be more your speed. Do you like getting your ass kicked? Because then Nocturne's the game for you, sis. Like it's just.
I've got another entry point that might be good because you might be able to tie it to something else you like. So if you're a fan of like Ghibli movies, check out Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch because that's also a pretty decent foray into turn-based RPGs. So,
but I would think that would
weeby,
be
though.
I would think that would be very weeby.
Yeah, but it's a specific kind of weeby. Like again,
That's
like
fair.
it's like watching a 60-hour Ghibli movie basically. So, a lot of ways.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just talked about it. Play like a dragon, yo.
Yeah, not the earlier Yakuza games, which are beat 'em ups, which I
Yakuza
tried
like a
very
dragon,
difficult.
so.
Very difficult. I found that very difficult to get into. I tried playing Yakuza 0. I got my ass beat too many times. I was like, this is not for me.
Like Yaku Dragon,
Yaku Dragon.
like Yakuza like a dragon is, it doesn't have like an anime art style. It's a serious story with very silly elements to it, right? And the sillier elements you don't have to necessarily participate in. But it still has like some weebiness to it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like one of the, like you can like it has traditional like classes, right? Like one guy is a magic class, but he's also a hobo. So he drinks vodka and lights a match and just like blows like fire on you. That's his like fire attack, right? It has summons, right? But like you could summon anywhere from a gangster who jumps off the side of a building and throws a bunch of knives at you while he's running down there to get you, or like a chicken. You know what I mean? Like you get the best of both worlds. So.
I posted a video in the Discord that I watched today actually about a video that kind of looks at the basically kind of like the vocabulary that we as gamers from playing so many games are kind of ingrained with that makes it very easy for us to pick up new titles because they're using a lot of the same design language, at least on like a very fundamental level. And it's interesting because like I'm thinking of that video as I'm talking through this, because if you've never played like turn-based style RPGs before, it can be very like stuff that we find like easy can actually be very obtuse to get into because they all have a very specific style of play that you learn by playing a lot of them, and then it becomes easier as you go along. And that's why like it's tough to think of good entry points into the system. I mean, we knock Final Fantasy VII a lot on this show, and deservedly so. But it is a pretty decent entry point into those games. And
look, it brought me to the dance.
Yeah,
right?
and it's not overly, I wouldn't say it's overly weeby either for that matter. So as long as you can deal with your Popeye arm protagonists. So good question.
The other thing that I should have mentioned, fucking Undertale and Deltarune are both absolutely like good baby's first JRPG kind of games too. So something else to consider.
Johnny says, in light of our new Lord and Savior, the Pop-Tart mascot from the Pop-Tart Bowl that happened recently, do you have a favorite flavored Pop-Tart?
Never had a Pop Tart ever.
Ever.
Shut the fuck up, Micah. Ever?
Nope, never had a Pop Tart ever.
How
Is there any
did the
particular
guy
reason for that?
who lived on Crystal Light and mustard not have Pop Tarts in his
I didn't have Pop Tart money. I didn't have Pop Tart money.
You didn't even have money for like the store brand toaster pastries?
No, I wasn't living high on the hog like that. No, I've never had a Pop Tart. The reason aren't they gooey in the middle?
Yes.
I don't like hot goo.
I mean, I usually eat mine room temperature. I also don't care for hot goo, but I enjoy Pop-Tart. Hot goo. Yo, what's up with hot goo?
So let me tell you something. I pride myself on not being like a basic dude. You know what I mean? Like I try, like there's not a whole lot of like basic things that I like. But when it comes to Pop-Tarts, my two favorite flavors are plain strawberry and brown sugar cinnamon. Possibly
brown sugar cinnamon is one of my favorites.
Most basic flavors
I
of
love brown
Pop-Tart
sugar cinnamon
that you
Pop-Tart.
could ever have.
For me, like brown sugar cinnamon, as far as like the everyday flavor you can get off the shelf anywhere. Huge fan of that. Also, I like the wild berry Pop-Tart. I feel like I look like a wild berry Pop-Tart most of the time now. Anyway,
That's true. You do. It's a fact.
And other than that, like I remember like the red velvet Pop-Tarts being pretty good, but that's like a limited thing. They bring that out every so often. But those were good. I can dig on that.
See, the problem is too, like so. There's a restaurant by me called the Iron Rooster. It's like a breakfast lunch restaurant.
Oh yeah,
they make like custom.
They do like the fancy Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, they're excellent. So
those are good.
I'm gonna save T-Wash's story or question until next episode because I want to dig into that a little bit more, but we don't quite have time today to go over that. So T-Wash, we will come back to that question next episode. Cam says, does the devil reveal in AEW have you feeling underwhelmed or simply whelmed?
I don't know what that is.
Wouldn't expect you to.
I mean, it's the most logical outcome that still doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
right?
the thing that I find curious is that by all accounts, unless they have information that they're keeping very close to the vest, Adam Cole's timetable to return is still very up in the air. And obviously they have now kicked the ball down the hill on building towards an MJF Adam Cole showdown, where MJF will, I'm sure, have to go through the other members of the group before he gets to Adam Cole, and Adam Cole will be like like the final boss. But who knows when that's going to happen, and who knows how long it's going to take either, because AEW tends to take a little bit longer with these. Like, this is a feud that could easily fill 6 months or more, and do they have the legs to do a 6-month feud between MJF and whatever they're going to call this new troupe that Adam Cole's leading? I don't know.
And they, MJF is, from what I understand, he's also injured. Like,
Yes.
he's been working through injury, so he's going to be gone for a while. Adam Cole jumped, 3 feet down and broke his ankle or some shit, so he's going to be out. And so yeah, I think they kind of made the best of a bad situation.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, it makes sense because like the whole odd couple thing was going to blow up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you could see it coming, and that's perfectly fine. But it also doesn't make sense because like, oh, okay, you've been the devil all this time, but like you've been like you were champion with him, and now you sabotaged your own self to lose the tag team championships, and you did all this so that Samoa Joe could be the champion. Like there's no way in hell you're beating Samoa Joe, right? Like, so it doesn't make sense if you think about it, but like if you don't think about it, it's like, all right, I guess.
Yeah.
It's better than the other rumors, right? Like Tony Khan being the devil. Like, no.
It was me,
Jesus.
Maxwell. It was me
Right.
all along.
Hi guys. It was me. It was me all along.
Oh
It's
my god.
great. All right.
Yeah, like I said, I mean they have every opportunity to do it. But it's funny, and I don't know if they're doing this, but it just kind of feels like it. Like I feel like they see what's going on over there, and they see this like bloodline story that's been just like so expertly told over the last however many months, years, and they're just like, oh, what if we could do that too? And I feel like that this is all kind of building towards that. I don't think they had the plan for Adam Cole to be that guy the whole time, but like you said, it was the easiest answer to do. So we'll see.
But the problem is like, yeah, they see like this epic bloodline story, but they're taking the bad parts, right? Like the bloodline story is kind of like.
And what's funny is that they already kind of did their version of that, like with the cold Hangman Page, like Kenny Omega, epic. So I don't know.
Well, it was with Hangman Page.
I know. Look, they tried. They tried. They tried to make Adam Page a thing.
Sorry, Cam. I don't see it. I just don't. I've seen better cowboy gimmicks. I've seen better buckshot lariats. You know what did it for me? Like when he came out like trying to be a badass or whatever, right? Like remember when JBL used to come out in like these big ass cars with the horns on them and shit? Adam Page did the same thing, but he came out in a Tesla, in a white Tesla, like the base model Tesla too, right? Like it wasn't even the supercar; it was like the Model 3 or whatever the cheap one is, right? Whatever the cheap one is, and it just looked god awful. I'm like, you're trying too hard, man.
Again, he can't talk. He can't talk. He is so bad on the mic. Like it's painfully bad. It's like fucking like early Roman Reigns bad levels on the microphone for Adam Page.
Look, I already like Swerve Strickland, but when he literally hung Hangman by a chain around, I was like, well, this is my favorite wrestler ever. This is Happy Black History Month.
There you go. That's probably the next AEW champion. Honestly, is probably
right. That's who should have been the fucking devil, right?
Yeah.
Like it would have made fucking sense.
Plus, he already has his faction. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Micah. You're right. You're right. We're going to save all the other questions because I have to get out of here. But again, don't forget to leave us those questions on the Discord. Again, don't forget us. You can support the show financially by using our Amazon link, going to denspixels.com/Amazon. And of course, subscribing for premium by going to denspixels.com/premium. As Carrie mentioned earlier, ByScore just released a new Shin Megami Tensei EP that you can find on Bandcamp. So search out ByScore.
ByScore.bandcamp.com. It's called Is This Persona? No, it's Shin Megami Tensei.
And there you go.
Yeah.
So thank you guys very much for watching and listening. Glad to be back, and we'll see you all the next time.
See ya.
You're watching the Dense Pixels YouTube channel. Click the subscribe button while you're here, and make sure you check out our weekly podcast where we discuss the latest gaming news and our impressions on what games we've been playing.